Greetings, fellow seekers of slumber. Tonight, we forget the ballads of noble knights, their vows as polished as their armor. In tonight's story, we'll explore the life of the most desperate of their kind, the Hedge Knight. Welcome to a career path that is part mercenary work, part glorified vagrancy, and entirely devoid of a retirement plan. Before our tale begins, let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always wonderful to see how far these stories travel. Now, as the lights dim and you settle in, let us quietly turn to the winding roads and open fields and wander into the life of a knight without a master. Picture this. The crows are your only audience. The field smells of churned mud, iron, and the sweet, cloying decay of men who died for a cause they barely understood. You are standing over one such man, a knight, or at least he was. Now he's just cooling meat, his eyes fixed on a grey, indifferent sky. His name is a mystery. His horse, patiently cropping grass nearby, is an opportunity. His steel is your future. This is your anointing, not with holy oils or a tap on the shoulder from a king. Your knighthood is conferred by the simple, brutal logic of battlefield salvage. Getting the armor off is the first trial. Rigor mortis is setting in, and the limbs are stiff and uncooperative. The steel plates are heavy, the leather straps slick with blood. Every buckle is a curse. Every clasp a struggle against a dead man's last clench. This is not a noble act. This is manual labor. It is visceral and undignified. You are not a squire respectfully claiming his master's arms. You are a vulture, and you are stripping a corpse before the competition arrives. Let's just say this is your inheritance. The deceased is your first and most silent business partner. The reality is, the title of Sir is a fiction propped up by 3 pillars: a horse, a sword, and a suit of armor. Without them, you are just another foot soldier with delusions of grandeur. A suit of plate, even this dented, grime-caked mess, represents a lifetime of a peasant's wages. It is not just protection, it is a declaration of status, a barrier of entry to the violent profession of arms. The horse is even more valuable. It is mobility. It is tactical advantage. It is the difference between being a wandering sellsword and a knight-errant, a title that sounds far more romantic than its reality. You are not just taking a man's possessions, you are performing a hostile takeover of his entire professional identity. Finally, you stand clad in his steel. It doesn't fit. The gorget chafes your neck. A pauldron digs into your shoulder. The whole suit is a cage of ill-fitting iron, and it carries the faint, sour smell of its previous, recently vacated occupant. You pull the Graithhelm on. The world narrows to a slit. The sound is muffled, your own breath echoing in the confined space. You look the part, more or less, provided nobody gets too close, or stands downwind. You have the starting assets. The initial capital investment has been secured. But assets are meaningless without liquidity. You need coin, you need food, and most of all, you need to turn this stolen identity into a reputation that people will pay for. There is only one place to turn scrap metal and a dead man's horse into a future: the tournament circuit. This origin, born of pragmatism and battlefield salvage, becomes the defining truth of your existence. You are not anointed, you are self-appointed. This act forever separates you from the landed knights who inherit their steel and their legitimacy from a long line of ancestors. They fight for honor, for feudal oaths, for the continuation of a legacy written on scrolls in their family keep. You fight for supper. This fundamental difference is not merely a matter of social standing, it is a permanent, unbridgeable chasm in worldview that will dictate every contract you take and every life you end. welcome to the tournament circuit. Forget the songs of chivalrous contests and ladies' favor. This is not a sport. It is a brutal, roving marketplace where your body and your horse are the goods for sale. The air doesn't smell of perfume and roses. It's a thick, greasy soup of horse manure, sweat, cheap wine, and the smoke from 100 blacksmith forges all hammering out the dents from the previous days. This is a trade show for violence, and you are here to network. The central pillar of this entire enterprise is a concept called ransom. When you are defeated in the lists, your opponent legally owns your horse and armor. They are his prize. You are expected to buy them back for a negotiated price. This is the grim reality behind the spectacle. Every pass in the just, every swing in the melee, is a high-stakes financial gamble. A single shattered lance can be the difference between a full belly and utter ruin. Lose your horse, and you are no longer a knight. You are just a man walking home in shame. Your first challenge is not an opponent, but the roster. You pay the entry fee, a sum that feels like a wound in your meager purse. You are a nobody. Your name, which you likely invented on the ride over, is placed at the very bottom of the lists. You will be matched against other unknowns, other desperate men whose armor is as dented as yours. This is not the main event. This is the undercard, the bloody audition to see who is worth watching and who will be leaving their armor with the victor. You get your horse into position. The world shrinks again to that narrow slit in your Graithhelm. Down the field, your opponent is a mirror of your own anxiety, a man encased in second-hand steel, praying his saddle is cinched tight. There is no grand principle at stake here. You are not fighting for the love of a queen or the honor of your kingdom. You are fighting for the right to remain solvent. Let's just say this is less a duel of champions and more a deeply personal audit of each other's financial viability. The trumpet sounds, a raw, brazen note that cuts through the murmuring crowd. You kick your horse. The animal lurches forward, a sudden explosion of power beneath you. The ground trembles. The wind shrieks past the vents in your helm. Your target is the small shield on your opponent's shoulder. You are not trying to kill him. A dead man cannot pay ransom. You are trying to break your lance on his body in a controlled, violent, and profitable collision. The impact is not glorious. It is a full-body car crash. Wood explodes. The shock travels up your arm, through your shoulder, and rattles your teeth. You fought to keep your seat, your muscles screaming in protest. You stayed on. Across the field, so did he. One pass down, 2 more to go. It is a grueling, repetitive, and terrifying process, a brutal calculus of angles and momentum. By some miracle, on the 3rd pass, your lance strikes true and his does not. You see him rock in the saddle, a moment of obscene imbalance, before he topples sideways and crashes to the earth with a sound like a dropped anvil. He is unhorsed. You have won. There is no swell of heroic music. There is only the frantic relief of survival and the immediate, cold calculation of profit. Now comes the truly awkward part, the negotiation. His squire helps him up, and you approach, the victor, to discuss terms. He is bruised, his pride is shattered. And now you have to haggle with him over the price of his own equipment, like 2 merchants squabbling over the price of fish. This is the honor of the tourney. You survived the one-on-one interview. You have a few more coins in your purse than when you started. But the just is merely the appetizer. The main course, where fortunes are truly made and bodies are irrevocably broken, is the grand melee. The tournament circuit is the forge that burns away any lingering romanticism about the life of a knight. It teaches you that chivalry is a currency you cannot afford to spend, and that honor is secondary to the crushing reality of your own balance sheet. Every knight you face is not a brother in arms united by a common code. They are a competitor, a potential asset to be stripped or a liability that could mean your professional extinction. This transactional worldview, learned here in the mud and the noise, will become the lens through which you see the rest of your violent life. If the jest was a surgical procedure, the Grand Melee is a back alley brawl with hammers. This is the main event of the tournament, the chaotic heart of the entire affair. All the posturing and one-on-one precision of the lists is discarded for the brutal efficiency of mass violence. This is not about form. It is about function. And that function is to break the other team completely. The rules are simple because there are hardly any. Two large groups of knights, sometimes numbering in the dozens, line up at opposite ends of the field. The goal is to be the last team standing by capturing, unhorsing, or forcing the surrender of every opponent. Before the charge, a flurry of last-minute negotiations takes place. You find yourself in a huddle of 5 other knights, none of whom you know. This is not a band of brothers. It is a temporary non-aggression pact. A strategic alliance born of pure pragmatism. You are agreeing not to hit each other for a little while, in the hopes of ganging up on others more effectively. Let's just say it's the medieval equivalent of a group project, where your final grade is survival. The horn blows. It is not a single, clean note, but a cacophony of them. The roar from the men on your line is a physical force. The earth shakes. The gap between the two sides closes with terrifying speed, a wall of noise and iron. The impact is not one crash but 100, a splintering, grinding, screaming wave of chaos. Your lance shatters on someone's shield, the feedback nearly tearing your arm from its socket. A horse to your left goes down, its shriek cut short. You are immediately blind on one side. An axe, a weapon with no place in a chivalrous contest, swings for your head. You parry. Barely. The cavalry charge lasts for about 10 seconds. After that, it descends into a muddy, heaving scrum. This is where the real work is done. It is a claustrophobic hell of steel plates, grunting men, and treacherous ground. Your temporary allies are close, but you cannot trust them. You are all independent contractors wearing the same temporary jersey. The moment it is more profitable to abandon you, they will. You learn the real art of the melee quickly. You do not seek out the strongest opponent for a glorious duel. You look for the weak link, the knight whose horse is tired, the man whose shield arm is dropping. Then you and your teammates swarm him. This isn't a series of noble duels. It is a sequence of hostile acquisitions. 3-on-1 are the preferred odds. This is character building. You see a great lord, a famous champion, and you give him a wide berth. There is no percentage in challenging him. Instead, you spot a younger knight, his armor polished but his eyes wide with terror. He is your target. He is your next meal. The fight is a grind. An hour of this feels like a lifetime. Your muscles burn with a fire that dulls your senses. Lifting your shield is agony. Every swing of your sword is a monumental effort. The field is a wreck of fallen banners, broken weapons, and the groaning bodies of the unhorsed and the unfortunate. Finally, a long, sustained blast from the horns signals the end. One side is broken. You are still in the saddle, bruised, bleeding from a cut under your eye, utterly spent. But you have 2 captives, 2 lesser knights who yielded to you. Their lives and armor now forfeit to your will. After another round of undignified haggling, you have coin, you have won. But as you pay for repairs to your armor and a hot meal, you see how quickly the winnings vanish. This life, this cycle of gambling your body for coin, is unsustainable. You need stability. You need a wage. The Grand Melee is a university of violence. It teaches you lessons you will never find in a song or a poem. It teaches you that alliances are temporary, that survival is a matter of opportunism, and that a 3-to-1 advantage is the highest form of battlefield chivalry. The melee burns away the fiction of individual glory, replacing it with the cold, hard calculus of group combat. These are not the lessons of a knight. They are the lessons of a soldier, and they are the only ones that will truly keep you alive. The bruises from the last melee have faded, but the memory of your dwindling purse has not. The tournament circuit is a young man's game, a relentless meat grinder that chews up bodies and spits out debt. The thrill of victory is fleeting, but the cost of new equipment is constant. The chaotic freedom of the road has lost its luster. What you need is not a prize. You need a salary. And so, you seek a patron. Your search leads you to the hall of a minor lord, a man whose ambition is a size or two larger than his holdings. You present yourself not as a champion, but as an applicant. You stand on his dusty rushes while he looks you over, his gaze lingering on the dents in your armor and the muscle in your sword arm. This is not an audience with a noble. It is a job interview. He is not assessing your honor. He is calculating your value as an asset, a piece of mobile security infrastructure. Your horse, your steel, your hardened cynicism, they are all lines on a resume he is reading. The offer, when it comes, is not for glory or lands. The words he uses are livery and maintenance. This is the standard employment contract for a man of your profession. Maintenance means a place on a straw pallet in the barracks, a seat at the lower end of the hall's trestle table, and 3 reliably bland meals a day. Livery means you will be given a surcoat stitched with his sigil, a drab uniform to be worn over your armor. You are surrendering your personal brand to become a walking advertisement for his house. In return, your sword is his. Your life is his. When he requires a man to be intimidated, a village to be taxed, or a rival to be slain, you are on call. You kneel, place your hands between his, and swear an oath of fealty. The words are ancient and solemn, but the meaning is brutally modern. Congratulations. You have accepted a mid-level position in the Lord's private security division. The benefits package is non-existent and the hours are terrible, but the job security is, for the moment, stable. The reality of this new life is a profound and soul-crushing boredom. The visceral thrill of the melee is replaced by the agonizing tedium of guard duty. You stand for hours at a gate, watching peasants shuffle past. You stand for hours outside your lord's solar, listening to the muffled sounds of political maneuvering you are not privy to. Your armor is no longer a tool for earning. It is your work uniform, and it is heavy, hot, and uncomfortable. The days bleed into one another in a monotonous cycle. Wake, train, eat, stand guard, sleep. This is not the life of an adventurer. It is the life of a security guard, waiting for a crisis that may never come. You have traded the acute, chaotic risk of the tournament for the dull, chronic certainty of service. The physical dangers may have lessened, but you will soon discover you have exchanged them for something far more complex. You are no longer just a fighter. You are a piece on a board, a household retainer surrounded by other ambitious, paranoid, and quietly venomous players. This act of swearing fealty is the end of your life as a true hedge knight. You no longer wander the peripheries of the world, defined only by your own strength and will. Your fate is now intrinsically tied to the political fortunes of another man. You have exchanged the harsh liberty of the freelancer for the constrained security of the employee. This decision provides you with a roof and a meal, but it costs you the one thing you owned outright: your autonomy. You believed the melee was a dangerous environment. You were mistaken. The most treacherous ground you will ever have to navigate is the 50 feet of rushes separating the entrance of your lord's great hall from his high table. In the tournament, the threats were honest and declared themselves with a lowered lance. Here, the threats wear friendly smiles, offer you wine, and ask you about your day. A sharp sword is a simple problem. A sharp tongue in the right ear is a catastrophe. Welcome to the bitter theater of household politics. You have a steady job, but you have joined a deeply dysfunctional corporate family. Every meal in the Great Hall is a live performance where your status is on public display. Your seat's proximity to the Lord, the cut of meat you are served, whether the servant fills your cup with the good wine or the table wine, these are not trivial details. They are a constantly updated chart of your political stock, visible to all. And as the new hire, your stock is perpetually low. You quickly learn the major players in this quiet, venomous game. The castle steward is your first and most implacable enemy. He is a man who fights with ledgers, not longswords. To him, you are not a noble warrior ensuring the safety of the keep. You are an expense, a drain on the granary, a line item under armed liabilities. His quiet disapproval can mean thin blankets in winter or a horse that mysteriously goes lame before a long journey. Then there is the captain of the guard, an older knight who has held his position for 20 years. He has the Lord's trust, and he views you with a professional suspicion. Are you a threat to his authority? A reckless upstart who will cause trouble, or a useful pawn to be maneuvered? His respect cannot be won in the training yard. It must be earned through quiet deference and a clear demonstration that you understand the established hierarchy. Let's just say he is the tenured head of the department, and you are the new contractor everyone is waiting to see fail. You learn the new rules of survival. Discretion becomes your shield. A closed mouth is your best defense. You master the art of the non-committal answer. You learn to watch, to notice the fleeting glance between the Lord's wife and a visiting dignitary, to hear the venom in a seemingly light-hearted jest from the steward. This is not the visceral education of the battlefield. It is the analytical education of the court. Your primary duties are no longer combat readiness, but strategic flattery and proactive rumor mitigation. The quiet tension of this life, the constant low-grade paranoia, begins to wear on you more than any physical combat ever did. But this entire ecosystem of petty rivalries and silent power struggles is a luxury, a product of peacetime. That peace is about to end. A dispute over a patch of woodland with a neighboring lord has escalated. An ultimatum has been delivered and ignored. The time for whispers is over. The simmering politics of the hall are about to be drowned out by the screams on the battlefield. The steward is now frantically calculating siege rations. The guard captain is now your battlefield commander. And you, the man hired for his skill with a sword, are about to become incredibly relevant again. The whispers and the politics did not vanish. They have simply moved to a new, more violent venue. This education in the halls of power is a pivotal moment in your development. It teaches you that the mechanics of violence are simple, but the mechanics of human ambition are infinitely complex. You learn that true power is not always held by the man in the best armor. It is held by the one who controls the flow of coin, the one who has the Lord's ear, the one who knows the secrets of others. This cynical understanding of power will be far more valuable for your long-term survival than your ability to win a duel. The songs they sing about sieges are uniformly lies. They are full of thunderous trebuchets, soaring siege towers, and knights storming the breach in a wave of valor. They never mention the taste of weevil-infested hardtack, the unending rain that soaks into your bones, or the precise, gut-wrenching horror of dysentery. The reality of a siege is not a glorious assault, it is a long, miserable, and profoundly boring exercise in applied starvation. Welcome to the siege camp, your new home for the foreseeable future. It is a hastily constructed city of mud and misery. Sprawling in the shadow of the defiant castle you are meant to conquer. The air is a foul cocktail of wet canvas, wood smoke, and the overwhelming stench of the communal latrine pits. The weather is your most intimate enemy. The sun bakes the filth into a hard crust. The rain turns the entire camp into a slick, brown swamp. You do not fight the enemy. You fight the damp, the cold, and the crushing monotony. The primary military strategy of a siege is waiting. You dig trenches. You reinforce palisades. You stand watch, staring at the same impassive stone walls for weeks on end. The initial surge of martial purpose quickly soars, curdling into a grim routine. The greatest threat is not a volley of arrows from the ramparts, but the insidious creep of disease through your own ranks. Let's just say the bloody flux is the most effective soldier on your lord's payroll, waging a far more successful war on your intestines than your army wages on the castle. Violence, when it comes, is sudden, random, and pointless. A man standing next to you will suddenly grunt and collapse, a crossbow bolt sprouting from his neck, his bowl of thinned stew spilling into the mud. The defenders might attempt a sortie, a desperate charge in the dead of night that results in 10 minutes of blind, panicked stabbing in the dark before they retreat. These are not battles. They are lethal interruptions to the tedium. Your days are spent not in glorious combat, but in a desperate, grinding war against boredom and malnutrition. But patience, like food and money, is a finite resource. Weeks have turned into months. The camp is a tattered ruin, the men are sullen and sick, and your lord's coffers are running dry. His gamble has failed. The defenders have not starved. So, he makes the last, most desperate gamble of all, a direct assault. It is a terrible, bloody, and tactically bankrupt idea, born of desperation. It is also your new job description. The long, boring part of the conflict has concluded. Now comes the short, exceptionally terrifying part. The mood in the camp shifts from sullen boredom to focused dread as the siege ladders and rams are brought forward. Your lord has decided to conclude this hostile negotiation with a final, unambiguous offer. It will be delivered in person. By you. The experience of a siege is the final, brutal lesson in the realities of warfare. It strips away every last vestige of romance and reveals war for what it is. A grim logistical enterprise. You learn that courage is a secondary virtue to having clean water, and that the greatest victories are won not by knights, but by quartermasters. This knowledge, paid for in hunger and misery, is the true mark of a veteran. It is the understanding that armies are defeated by empty bellies and sickness, not by swords, a truth that no bard will ever sing. The horn sounds the assault. There is no time for thought, only instinct and terror. You run towards the stone wall, the heavy siege ladder digging into your shoulder. The air is thick with the sound of 1,000 angry wasps, arrows. Men scream and fall around you. It is not a charge, it is a race into a meat grinder. Your ladder slams against the parapet. You begin to climb, one rung, then the next. The wood is slick with something wet. You hope it is water. It is not. A man above you grunts, a wet, final sound. He falls, a dead weight, taking 2 others with him. You do not look down. You keep climbing. Burning sand and hot oil rain from above. You press your face to the ladder, the wood splintering next to your ear from a crossbow bolt. The noise is a physical wall of screams, splintering wood, and the shriek of steel on stone. This is not a battle. It is a vertical butchery. By some profound miracle of luck, or because everyone else above you is dead, you are the one to heave yourself over the top. The fighting on the rampart is a desperate, shoving, stabbing chaos. You plant your lord's banner on the wall, not as an act of valor, but as a way to steady yourself. The castle falls. Hours later, your lord finds you standing in the bloody courtyard. He sees his banner on the wall, and he sees you, the man who planted it. In a moment of what might be genuine gratitude, or perhaps calculated political theater, he bids you kneel in the mud and gore. He taps you on each shoulder with his sword. He speaks the ancient words, "You have been promoted. You are now Sir, and you are granted a holding for your service, a patch of land called Blackwood Creek. You have finally achieved the dream of every hedge knight. You are landed." The reality of this reward, however, begins to settle in with the cold light of the next morning. Blackwood Creek is not a proud keep with fertile fields. It is a miserable stretch of swampy woods, home to a dozen hovels, a perpetually damp mill, and a population of peasants who view you with the deep, unshakable resentment they reserve for all forms of authority. The land is poor, the harvests are thin, and the tax revenue would not be enough to keep you in new horseshoes. Congratulations. You have been promoted from a simple warrior to a feudal administrator. Your new responsibilities include settling disputes over escaped pigs, arbitrating complaints about leaky roofs, and dispensing justice from a damp and drafty hall you can't afford to repair. The title of Sir is not a mark of respect from your new tenants. It is a constant, nagging reminder of your obligations to them. This is the great, cruel joke of social mobility. You have been given a name and a title, but you have not been given the wealth required to support them. You are a noble now, with all the crushing expenses and responsibilities that entails. You have the honor, but the Lord who granted it still holds all the power. This elevation from hedge knight to landed knight is a critical, and often cruel, turning point. It illustrates the rigid hypocrisy of the feudal class system. A title, meant to be a mark of honor and power, is rendered meaningless without the inherited wealth and political connections to support it. The knight learns that social mobility is a trap, a way to reward valor without actually giving up any real power or money, saddling the new noble with responsibilities that ensure he will never become a threat. The word, Sir, is the most expensive word in the common tongue. It costs nothing for a lord to bestow it, but it will cost you everything you possess to maintain it. You are a landowner now, a lord of a tiny, forgotten creek. But the title is not a prize. It is a weight, a heavier burden than any suit of armor, because you can never take it off. Your name now comes with a set of crushing expectations you have absolutely no way of meeting. Your life is no longer your own. You spend your days not in the training yard, but mediating petty squabbles between your tenants over stolen chickens and boundary fences. Your hands, once calloused from the grip of a sword, are now calloused from mending a roof that the winter rains have found their way through. Your great hall is drafty, and you eat alone because you cannot afford to host guests. This is not the life of a noble. This is the slow, grinding life of a man trapped by his own minor success. The symbols of your former life, the very tools that earned you this position, begin to decay. Your suit of armor, your pride, sits on its stand in the corner of the hall, and you notice the insidious creep of rust in the joints and under the buckles. You cannot afford the fine sand, the oils, and most importantly, the time or the squire needed for its constant maintenance. Your warhorse, once a powerful beast, grows leaner in the field, surviving on poor grass instead of the rich oats a knight's charger requires. The decay of your equipment is the visible manifestation of the decay of your dream. The unwritten laws of nobility are a financial minefield. When your liege lord summons his banners for war, you are expected to arrive fully equipped, with provisions for a campaign ready to serve. This is a sudden, mandatory capital expenditure that you cannot afford. When a traveler of noble birth seeks shelter for the night, you are honor-bound to provide hospitality, to offer the best food and wine from your larder. Your larder is mostly empty. Let's just say you have become asset-rich and cash-poor. Your title is a brand you can no longer afford to maintain, and you are quietly heading for feudal bankruptcy. You are caught between two worlds and belong to neither. To the peasants of Blackwood Creek, you are the lord, an authority to be resented and feared. To the true nobility, the men with vast estates and generations of wealth, you are a pretender. An up-jumped hedge knight with a swampy patch of land to his name. You are more isolated now as a landed knight than you ever were as a wanderer sleeping in a ditch. The rust on your armor becomes a source of profound shame. The title is a cage. The land is a prison. There is only one way to escape this slow ruin. You need coin, and the only skill you have that can earn it is violence. To save your name, you must return to the life you left behind. This chapter of your life is the final and most brutal lesson in feudal economics. It teaches you that class and station are not concepts of honor or valor. They are functions of wealth. A title without the gold to support it is not an elevation. It is a trap, a form of social control that saddles a man with obligations designed to ensure he never accumulates enough power to become a threat. The dream was a lie, and the bitterness of that realization will follow you for the rest of your days. Returning to the tournament circuit is like visiting a town you left as a hero. The banners are the same, the crowds still cheer for bloodshed, but you are not the same. You are older, slower, and the tourney, like a cruel lover, has not aged a day. Your journey back to the lists is not a triumphant comeback. It is the beginning of the long road of decline. The first opponent you face every morning is your own body. Before you even touch a sword, you must fight a war against the ghosts of old injuries. The knee that was crushed in a melee 10 years ago now clicks and groans with every step. The shoulder you dislocated in a fall screams a protest on cold mornings. Atches that were once a minor nuisance are now your constant, unwelcome companions. It takes you longer to warm up, longer to move freely. Your body's warranty has expired, and every part is beginning to fail. In the lists, this decline is measured in fractions of a second. You see the opening, your mind commands the parry, but your arm is just a moment too slow. The blow from a young knight's sword, a blow you would have shrugged off in your prime, now sends a shockwave of white-hot pain through you and leaves you breathless. The impact of the lance in a jest no longer feels like a solid shock. It feels like something inside you is breaking. The young men you face are a different breed. They are faster, stronger, and possess the brutal confidence that only comes from a body that has not yet begun to betray them. You are no longer a champion. You have become a respected and highly beatable fixture on the circuit. A grizzled veteran. Young knights, eager to make a name for themselves, seek you out. Defeating you is a mark of prestige, a story they can tell. You are a gatekeeper to glory, and your purpose is to be overcome. Congratulations. You have successfully transitioned from a contender to a living piece of history, a relic that everyone pays to see get knocked into the mud. The economics of this decline are brutal. You fight not for prizes, but for survival, seeking just enough ransom money to cover your expenses and move on to the next town. But you lose more often than you win. You sell your spare helm to cover an entry fee. Then you sell your lordly cloak to pay for a hot meal. Each defeat is a chipping away, not just of your pride, but of your physical assets. Soon, a bad fall in a meaningless melee changes everything. You are unhorsed, but this time the pain is different. It is sharp, deep, and sickening. Your leg is broken. As you lie in the dirt, you hear the herald announce your forfeiture. Your horse and armor, the last vestiges of your identity, are gone. You cannot pay the ransom. The tourney has taken your youth, your health, and your name. Now it has taken your horse and steel. You are left with nothing but a broken body, an empty purse, and a very specific set of violent skills that are becoming increasingly difficult to market through legal channels. This physical decline is the great, humiliating equalizer. For a knight whose entire existence was defined by his martial prowess, losing that prowess is a kind of death. It is the final, painful stripping away of identity, leaving behind not a warrior or a lord, but simply a man with a collection of scars and regrets. This is the tragic, unwritten final chapter for most hedge knights, not a blaze of glory, but a slow, painful fizzle into obsolescence. A knight without a horse is not a knight. He is a man on foot with a sword. A man on foot with a sword and an empty belly is just another word for a bandit. The line between a hedge knight and a brigand is not a line at all. It is a gradient, a gentle slope that ends in a cliff. After 3 days of gnawing hunger, you have found the edge of that cliff. Chivalry, you discover, is a luxury item, and you are no longer a consumer. The decision, when it comes, is not a dramatic moral crisis. It is a simple biological calculation. A plump merchant with 2 nervous-looking guards is riding down the road. You are hiding in a ditch, your stomach a hollow ache. The debate is short and one-sided. You are a predator, and prey has wandered into view. This is the final stage of your professional evolution. Your first ambush is not an elegant display of martial prowess. It is a clumsy, ugly, and shameful affair. You burst from the trees, looking more like a wild man than a knight. The caravan guards, paid to look tough, not to die, take one look at the desperate glint in your eye and promptly abandon their employer. You stand before the terrified merchant, a man whose only crime was being less hungry than you. He throws his purse on the ground and begs for his life. You take the coin and vanish back into the woods, your heart pounding with a mixture of adrenaline and self-loathing. Congratulations on your career transition into the field of freelance wealth redistribution. You have successfully leveraged your core competency, armed intimidation, to secure new operating capital. Your new enterprise has low overhead and flexible hours. The only downside is that your former colleagues are now contractually obligated to kill you on sight. This becomes your new life. You haunt the lonely stretches of the King's Road, a ghost in rusty mail. You learn the tradecraft of the common thug. You learn to spot the easy marks and to avoid the hard ones. You might fall in with other broken men, forming a small pack of wolves preying on the sheep of the realm. This is not a merry band of outlaws. It is a squalid and desperate collection of failures, held together by shared misery and the knowledge that capture means a rope. The title of Sir, which you once coveted, is now the blackest of ironies, a name you dare not speak aloud. Living as a vulture on the road is a short-term solution with a grim and predictable end. It is a life of constant fear, punctuated by moments of brutal, petty violence. But then, in a tavern where you are trading a stolen ring for a hot meal, you hear a rumor. A minor lord, his back against the wall in a hopeless war, is offering coin for swords. Any sword, no questions asked. It is a fool's errand, a contract that promises little more than a noble death. but it is a choice. It is a chance to die as a soldier instead of being hanged as a thief. This final degradation into banditry is the ultimate failure of the chivalric system. It creates a class of highly trained, independent warriors, and then provides no social safety net, inevitably forcing the unlucky and the aged into a life of crime. The bandit knight is not an aberration. He is a logical and tragic byproduct of a world that preaches honor but practices a brutal economy of violence. A world where the heroes of one season become the monsters of the next. The road to a lost cause is often the only one a man has left to travel. You follow the rumors to a dilapidated keep on the edge of a contested border, a place the world has forgotten. You accept the final contract, not for the meager coin the desperate lord offers, but because the alternative is to be found dead in a ditch or strung up from a gibbet. It is a choice between a meaningless end and one that might, in its final moments, have a sliver of purpose. The Lord's Hall is nearly empty, his lands already lost. His army is a testament to his desperation. You find yourself in a brotherhood of the damned other disgraced knights, debtors fleeing the law, and condemned criminals promised a pardon if they die facing the right direction. It is a collection of men who have nothing left to lose, which makes them, in a strange way, the most dangerous kind of soldiers. The Lord, a grim and defiant old man, does not lie to you. He cannot win. He can only make the enemy bleed for every inch of his home. He is not offering you a future. He is offering you a good death. It is the best contract you have been offered in a decade. In the hours before the inevitable assault, a strange sense of peace settles over you. You find a whetstone and patiently, meticulously, sharpen your sword. You use a fistful of sand and oil to scour the worst of the rust from your battered mail. It is a ritual you had long since abandoned, the quiet maintenance of a professional warrior. In these small, focused acts, you are not a bandit preparing for a crime, nor a failed lord mourning his status. You are a knight preparing for battle. The grime you scrub from the steel feels like the filth you are scouring from your soul. It is a futile gesture, perhaps, but it is yours. When the enemy army appears on the horizon, it is exactly as vast and as hopeless as you expected. Their banners are a forest of silk and steel. Their ranks are disciplined. Their armor gleams. On your own crumbling ramparts, you stand beside a drunken sellsword and a boy who has never seen a real battle. There are no grand speeches. There is only the quiet, shared understanding of men who have come to the end of their story and have chosen to write the final line themselves. The first wave of enemy soldiers begins to advance across the field. The horns blow, a sound not of victory, but of defiance. You raise your sword one last time, not as a bandit, not as a failed lord, not as a desperate survivor, but as a knight. The ending has arrived. This final contract is a purely personal form of redemption. It will not change the world. The Lord's keep will fall. No songs will be sung of your sacrifice, and the great chronicles written by the victors will not even mention your name. But this choice, the decision to die for a principle, however small and forgotten, is a profound act of defiance. It is the moment you wrest control of your own narrative from a world that broke you, choosing to die as the man you were once supposed to be. The noise is the first thing to fade. The heroic screams and the clang of steel recede, replaced by a dull, persistent ringing. You are lying on your back, looking up at a sky that seems vast and impossibly grey. The sharp agony of your wounds has cooled to a distant, thrumming ache. The cold of the earth is seeping into you, a final, unflinching embrace. You are dying. And for the first time in a long time, your mind is quiet. There are no grand revelations in these final moments. No ghosts of the past come to greet you. There is only a single, perfectly clear memory. You see a field, much like this one. You see a dead knight, his eyes open to an indifferent sky. You remember the feeling of stealing his armor, the weight of his sword, the sense that his end was your beginning. You finally understand the vacant look in that man's eyes. You have become him. Your story has come full circle. The journey through tournaments and service, through lordship and banditry, has led you back to where you started, as a nameless body on a patch of blood-soaked ground. Your final vision is not of a lady's face or a lord's banner. It is the sight of a scavenger, a young, desperate man much like you once were, his eyes fixed not on your face, but on the sword still clutched in your hand. He sees not a man, but an opportunity. The cycle is preparing to begin anew. You were a knight. You were a lord. You were a bandit. In the end, the titles are meaningless. The world will not remember your name, neither the one you were born with nor the one you briefly earned. The great histories will mention the fall of a minor keep, a footnote in a larger war, but you will not be in it. Your body will feed the crows, your blood will enrich the soil, and your bones will become part of the land you fought over. His story ends as it began, on a battlefield, unnamed, alone. His only legacy is the opportunity his death provides, and the rust that will settle on his sword, until the next desperate man comes along to claim it.